Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to the Tech Tip Thursday podcast. This is Jonathan, your co-host, and Louis. Say hello, Louis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jonathan. Nice and early.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
So,
basically, Louis, do you just want to kind of introduce the show to anyone who's listening?
yeah, no problem. So, our show is called the Thursday Tech Tip, and we are just here to either weekly or monthly, depending on how it goes, share technical tips for anyone that's interested in being more productive, being more efficient, and just having more fun, really, on your computer. Um, Yeah, so daily we figure out a lot of technical tips, and instead of having to share it one person at a time, we're using this medium to discuss some tips and also to share our knowledge and exchange ideas. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea is we also, we bring on a guest every now and then. We're open to listener suggestions as well. For this first show, we've got Hans Jørgen Lysglimt, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, from Norway. So I'll just see if I can get hold of Hans. Hans has just got back from Gran Canaria, where he was running a conference, and I'll just unmute him if that's possible. Yeah. Hey Hans, can you hear us? I think I've managed to somehow mute him or something. So yeah, we can actually see Hans if you're watching the video. Hans is there, but I think his microphone's muted. Okay. Excellent. Well, when we can get hold
There
of
we
Hans again.
go.
Oh, there
there
we go.
we go.
All right. Hi,
Yes,
guys.
there we go. So sorry about that, Hans. We were just sort of introducing the show as this is the first episode, and I was just explaining how we every now and then we bring on a guest, and we thought you'd be great for this first episode because this first episode is going to be about communication, the tools we use for communication, but not just the technology, but these sort of useful hacks and ways of it could be in-person networking. And since you've just run a conference yourself, we thought it'd be quite appropriate to bring you on and ask you about how it went and what kind of advice you might give to someone who's attending an event like that.
Sounds great.
Cool. So can you tell us a bit about how it went in Gran Canaria and then kind of introduce the conference to us?
Sure thing. I just came back to Oslo actually last night after spending 3 weeks in Gran Canaria doing two conferences over 3 events and different venues, and it's gone amazingly well. This is the 3rd time we're doing these events in the month of January in Gran Canaria. And some people say that you can't really judge an event before you've done it for the 3rd time, and if you're successful the 3rd time, you're really onto something, and we're definitely think we have passed that this time. So we first did the Gran Canaria Business Week during the 1st week of January. Gran Canaria is an island that's divided into 2 parts, really. The southern part, which is the touristy section of the island, and then the northern part, which is the city of Las Palmas, which is a modern big city with some 500,000 people in its own right. So we do 3 days down in the south, and we did 1 day up in the north in Las Palmas. And over those days, we were attended by more than 100 people. So we're about double the size from last year.
Oh, wow.
When Jonathan came and gave a great presentation about podcasting.
Okay.
And our intention now is to grow it even bigger.
Okay. And what was the theme of the conference? What was the name of the conference?
It's called the Gran Canaria Business Week, and it's really about what we call individual entrepreneurs and individual entrepreneurship. What we mean by that are people that are breaking it out on their own, doing their own thing. The digital nomad lifestyle fits really well into that. but also running small businesses and lifestyle businesses and things that are really built around you as a person more than the business necessarily. I think a lot of the, if you read about venture capital and company building, a lot of stuff out there is all about the business, and sort of many times even almost seems like you should sacrifice your personal life in order to build those businesses. But we believe it's important to focus on the individual in this process, and almost be like a counterweight to a lot of that other stuff. That doesn't mean that these things can't be combined, but we're focusing on the participants of the conference, and you basically get to know everybody, and people talk and hang out, and long pauses, and we talk about what we do, what we've learned, what we see going ahead. And it's more like an interactive week where we hang out and have a good time as well. So it's flexible what's actually on the agenda based on who we have available.
Okay.
And can I ask you, Hans? So you know, you're quite a well sort of polished. I don't know. I would say quite a polished, you know, public speaker. But were there any particular speakers who like really sort of stood out for you, and you thought, wow, you know, this guy's amazing? Or and if there were people like that, were there particular sort of techniques or things that they used when they were doing sort of public speaking or trying to tell a story? I do remember last year there was the guy, the reporter. I forget his name. Is it Tim? The sort of local reporter in Canaries.
It's always hard to point out individual presentations because they're all great in their own right. But still, we can point out that some of the sessions were really polished by great people who have you know, this as a profession. I'd like to point out Alanya, who moved down to Gran Canaria. She is a, you know, she does these circling sessions. Circling is a way of personal development, but it really can be applied also to business and what you want to do. You should check out Circling Europe online if you're interested in that. It's an interactive thing where you meet people and the people that you're working with and the people that are in the group, and you do interactive exercises that really show you a lot about yourself and the people that you're working with. It'll be like, imagine that you're in the room and the whole group gets to say, you know, how do you feel right now about the rest of the day, good or bad, in a line, and people line up. How do you describe yourself as a person, extrovert or introvert? And you see people line up on this line through the room, and sometimes you're surprised. Oh, I thought that person was such an extrovert, but actually she's feeling very introvert. So there are all these interesting things that are dynamic, and when you spend a week together like we do, you get to know people, so you get even more depth into those exercises.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I remember doing a similar exercise just on introversion and extroversion, and it's quite interesting how you have people who are naturally extroverts or naturally introverts, but actually feel the opposite, if that makes sense. So people who may be like very, very sociable in you know, in situations with other people, but actually inside they just want to be alone. Like, it may seem like they really enjoy being around other people, but actually they're dying to like have some quiet time on their own, which is that's not uncommon actually. I've heard that from a lot of people. Is that something that you found, Hans?
Yeah, and this is so applicable to leadership. It is applicable to selling. It is applicable to, you know, business is about people, and this is you can use it for so much. So that was a great session. She's a professional speaker and a professional organizer of these events in her own right. So it kind of stood out. I'd still like to. I mean, we had over. I don't know the exact count now, but I guess that we had probably something like 20 people up on stage during the week, and really the 4 days of presentations that we did. So there's a lot of great content, and you get to know a lot of people with different kinds of stories. I'd like to point out my friend Andrew Eidskrem. He's a Norwegian entrepreneur who has a Norwegian company, a company in Silicon Valley, and now set up a subsidiary in Gran Canaria to do software development and app development down there. And he told us about his story about building these teams in three countries and 3 continents really at the same time. It was a fascinating story that a lot of people got a lot from.
And that also needs a lot of coordination and a lot of clear communication to achieve that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And also, you got to keep, in mind all the time that you're building a corporate structure as well that is interrelated, and there are tax issues, and there are how you do the billing back and forth. And the Gran Canaria has a great tax incentive program where you can get a 7% tax instead of like 30 or 40% that we have up in the north. So if you play those cards right, you can really build something very advantageous tax-wise in Gran Canaria, and they want this. So this is not like tax evasion. They have a huge unemployment problem in Gran Canaria, so they really encourage people to take advantage of this.
Okay. Well, and you also get sunshine in Canaries, so it's already sounding like a good idea.
Indeed. So that's how we combine just sunshine and business and pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of too many other places, that you can just take a sort of budget airline flight during winter time and go somewhere like super sunny. Maybe Morocco, but yeah, Gran Canaria is definitely.
Another thing that really impressed me, Jonathan, was when you called from the Canaries using a UK mobile phone. You remember you received. Do you want to quickly explain how you did that?
So there's it was basically just a SIM card I picked up at the airport. It's called Toggle. I think it's by the same people do Libra or something like that. But basically, they give you a SIM card with your home country phone number that people can then ring you on in selected countries, mostly in Europe. I think about 10 countries in Europe where it's free incoming calls. So you don't get charged any. There's no roaming costs, and you can also register local numbers. So you get basically. You have several numbers on the same SIM card, so you have like a local Spanish one, but you can also have like local numbers in other countries as well, like Germany, France, all over the place. So yeah, super handy, and I think it's 10 countries across Europe, and then a couple worldwide as well, like China and US and stuff like that. So free incoming calls. People just assume you're in the UK. It's great. Yeah. And also Gran Canaria is on the same time zone as the UK as well, so it's like, oh yeah, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. That's right. Yep.
What was the name of that service, Jonathan?
It's called Toggle. If you just sort of search for Toggle SIM.
Toggle SIM might be useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I really like about that is if you are a small business, or if you're doing a service where the person that's getting in touch with you won't necessarily do it via email or on your website, they would actually call you up. If, for instance, if it's a computer problem, if the computer is slow, you can advertise your number. Even while you're sitting in the Canaries, you can advertise your number on all the UK forums and all the UK, job boards, the freelancing job boards, or the classifieds, and someone, like you said, they will just assume that you're actually in the United Kingdom. And if you have a good enough internet connection, there's really not a difference between you being in an office in the UK and being in the Canaries, except for the sunshine, as we just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really see Canaries as a very, very good option, especially if you have a UK business and you're able to kind of do it remotely, but you still need to have constant interaction with your clients over the phone. I think it's a really, really good option. Same time zone.
I totally agree, and I believe people are not fully sort of realizing the potential of the Canary Islands. I think partly due to the mass tourism that's developed over the last 30 years. It's sort of given the Canary Islands a little bit of a bad name, but it is what you make it, like everything here in the world, and it has great infrastructure. It's very safe. It might be more exciting to go to Bali or Thailand or South America or whatever, and I would be the first one to agree to that. It's more of an adventure, but you come to a point where you just want things to work, you want it easy, you want it safe, and it's just very hard to find anywhere that can rival the Canary Islands. Even Morocco, it's a totally different game from the Canary Islands. It's outside Europe, and all kinds of, you have to think about the cost of insurance and all kinds of things. And so many flights that go to Gran Canaria, it's amazing. I mean, you're sharing the flight with a ton of tourists, but it doesn't matter. I mean, so we're doing these workcations, that we call them, down in Gran Canaria. And if you check out the Gran Canaria Business Week, we now have a cooperation with several co-working facilities down in Gran Canaria, where you just can come for a week or a day or a month or whatever, and set yourself up with great broadband and printers and fax and whatever you need, and off you are. So you can just go straight from the airport to the office down there, and customers will never even notice. You're sort of in a flow, and that's what I love about it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I think we could probably do a whole episode on Gran Canaria.
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
But just kind of draw us back into the topic for this show. So in terms of communication, just kind of like starting off, like, were there sort of icebreakers or sort of exercises that you did, like, I don't know, say early in the morning, to get people like in the mood or stuff like that? Do you have any that you could share with us, Hans, that you found effective?
The thing is that, I'd like to go through when we're actually doing the conference during the day, because when we started out, it's a culture difference down there, and it also has to do with the weather and how things work down there. Because when I came down 3 years ago and did the first conference, I thought it would be like how we do it up north. You start early in the morning, you run through a lunch, and then you do the lunch, and then you have a second session after the lunch. That doesn't work down there, So we've learned that what you want to do is to start late and just run through the day and the evening and the night, as it turns out. People go out and have dinner and things. So it doesn't really work to start early in the morning. So this time, yeah.
It's already sounding so much better to me.
Yeah, right. This is also the way to combine, the workation stuff that we're talking about, the work and pleasure.
So I think you touched on something interesting there now, like the sort of the cultural differences and being aware of those and adapting sort of your rhythm, your schedule, and your communication, etc. And this is something that I've been talking to, like, say last night I went to a Chinese business and networking sort of evening, and talking to Chinese people, and it's quite interesting how just sort of the culture is just so different. And say, for example, I have a hotel website in Chinese, but we're trying to understand, like, how the messaging has to be, like, what appeals to people, what appeals to, like, Chinese people visually. The cultural references they have are just so entirely different, and it's very important to, if you're going to sell something, or if you're going to try and attract, sort of build traffic or visitors and that sort of thing, you really need to adapt your message. And I suppose, like, I suppose you guys, Louis, you're originally from South Africa, and Hans, you're from Norway, and you're running conferences in Gran Canaria. You guys must have that all the time, right? Just trying to adapt to a different sort of setting and different people and that sort of thing. Would you say that's the case?
I'd like to, we do two events down in Gran Canaria. We do the business week, and then later we do a personal development week. And in the personal development week, we talk a lot about energies. And that's, it's a word just to describe what you're talking about now. Different places have different vibes and different culture and different ways of doing it, and we call that energies, just to have a word for it. But I think it's important to tap into the local energy of wherever you are and whatever group you are and whatever you do. You agree, Louis?
Yeah, well, I usually would call it marketing personas or audience personas. So when I'm doing a bit of, a marketing piece, or if I'm doing a campaign, you can actually go and define who that person is that you're marketing to, or that you're trying to make aware of the product or the service or the event. And just going through those steps of, what's their age, what's their most likely, is it an event, or is it something that only appeals to one gender? And then you're changing your words, you're changing the imagery. You're basically changing everything specific to that user or to the recipient. So it would actually be interesting to know, when it comes to your initial outreach emails or your invitation emails or the websites, if you guys also use some differentiation. If you have specific landing pages for, you said you have business owners, but then also you have non-business owners maybe that attend.
Yeah, we do. We should be a lot better at that. Of course, I guess everyone needs to be better at that kind of thing. But the main channel that we're using is Facebook, and this just happens to be that back in 2008, I registered a Facebook page about Gran Canaria, and now that page happens to be the largest Facebook page about Gran Canaria. It has 115,000 likes. And it's way bigger than any other page. So this has been really the leverage that we've been using to market the events down there and to get things off the ground. I think now we have so much momentum that we probably, it's not, we need that page still, but that was the unique thing that we had going for us that we saw that was difficult for anyone else to replicate. So we've been using Facebook extensively to build these events, and we still do. Of course, you can differentiate a lot with Facebook and doing ads and all that, but we try to keep one coherent message. We still need to work on that message, because when people hear the Gran Canaria Business Week and come to the page, it's still not fully clear to people what they get. We need to tell them that it's a social event and a business event and a learning event and a sunshine event and a fun event at the same time. And there aren't that many events like this. So what we see is, what really works is really word of mouth. We have to have people attend, and everyone is really happy and a fantastic success this year, as last year. Everyone who attends, they seem to love it, but it's hard to communicate what it is. So we have to have people actually tell others that I went to this event and it was great, and you should really check it out.
Well, one of the really nice things about Facebook is that whole social sharing aspect of it, and what you're saying is, you want people to, after the event, also invite. But what I've found is a lot of people before the event will actually go and tell other people about it. Even just on Saturday, Jonathan organized an event through Facebook. It was about the Nomad list, and afterwards I went through the attendee list and I saw the amount of people that invited others. So you could see people that attended, and you could see who invited them. So although you only do the initial bit of marketing, those that are interested can tell other people, and that is very, very powerful in Facebook. You don't really get that many people nowadays with email. Or with email, you really need to ask them to forward it to a friend.
That's right.
With Facebook, they kind of just do it.
I saw a lot of people shared the event on their walls, so they were like, "Oh, I'm going to this tonight. Come along," or even just like I interviewed people at the event. I said, "How did you find out about this?" One guy was just like, "Oh, my mate just, we were having a drink just down the road, and he said, 'Oh, there's this thing on. Come along,'" But yeah, it's the network effect. Yeah, definitely.
So Jonathan, would you also say that using events is a really nice form of communication?
Yeah, I think I think it's I love events. I think some are sort of run better than others. Some are more successful than others. Um, but there's so many sort of variables that go into it, and so many things to consider, like what who your attendees are, who they're looking to meet, how you can facilitate their communication and their networking and help them get what they want to get out of the event.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I think Hans can probably speak from more experience.
No, I couldn't agree more. And the event, I think it's also important to really be attuned to the people who attend and the people who come and
Yeah.
seek out. This, again, is back to what we call energies.
Yeah.
You got to sort of find your energy and look for that energy and be really sensitive to what people are looking for. For example, during the business week, when we started out, we imagined that more like corporate types people might be willing to come down and attend, and more like people that have proper jobs up in the north to have like learning experiences and stuff. But we saw that the people who came and really benefited were those people who broke out on their own, doing their own thing, who had that sort of inner drive, the inner momentum. So we focused more and more on that, and now basically the conference is about that. We have it's not that it's anyone are more than welcome, but we've picked up on what people seem to be needing and the people that came down. So it's two events are they have you set them out and you start them and you run them, but they also have a life on their own, sort of independent of the promoter or the people that organize it, and you have to respect that.
Yeah. That's kind of the beautiful thing, isn't it? When they take on their life of their own, and then all these other people sort of chip in. You have this kind of like conversation, where people are helping each other out and interacting, and so doing cool stuff together. That's kind of the exciting stuff. That's the magic.
Absolutely. And the events down in Gran Canaria, we want to build them large. So we passed the 100 people mark this time. I think we were 70 people at the most, but more than 100 came through. But we want to build them much bigger. So I want 500 people or more in a few years to attend this event in Gran Canaria. Actually, both of those events have that in them, both the business week, for the entrepreneurs, and the personal development thing, which is much more into yourself and meditations and manifestations and stuff like that. So to build them large, I think you really have to respect the kind of momentum that builds inside the event itself, and all the people that chip in are really they're so important because they have their own momentum, their own energies, and their own pursuit that you are really facilitating with your event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool.
Well, you know what, Jonathan, with everything we've spoken about so far is really, group communication. So you're speaking to a big group of people, whether it's in an event or at a conference, or even as kind of like what we're doing now to a degree, although we are speaking, but we are broadcasting, so a large amount of people are able to hear what we are communicating. But we haven't really spoken much about, well, we spoke about the one-to-one communication with the phone, with your great SIM card. But okay, so I just came back from holiday, right? Okay, and you arrive back in the office and you open up, well, I don't do this, by the way, but many people do this. You arrive back in the office, you open up your email, and there's just thousands of emails that have come in.
Yeah.
I tend to do it the other way. I tend to spend, 20 minutes to 40 minutes per day while I'm on holiday, just to rather go through emails, delete them, respond, so nothing really builds up. I prefer to have an easy sailing when I get back with a little bit of work done rather than a pile of work to do. But do you guys experience something similar, or have you ever had email overload?
Yeah, I get email overload all the time. I don't care. Like whenever I show friends my phone, if any of my friends have OCD, they just like flip out because I've got two mail applications, and I don't know if you could see it, but I've got like you can see like
8,000.
Yeah, 8,000 in one mailbox and 9,000 in the other. And people just see that, they go, ah! I'm like, I don't care.
There is a really nice technical or tech tip with that. You can actually set the badge to not show.
Oh, yeah.
Because since you don't care, you really don't care how many unread.
No, but the thing is, I do kind of want that badge because I kind of remember the numbers and I go like 8,260,
okay.
8,261. Ah.
So you see, I've got mine a little bit different. Can you see that? Don't know if you can see it yet. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So actually, talk about communication. That's the 4 apps that I changed while I was on holiday. I replaced my normal phone with Human.
Okay.
I replaced my email with Google Inbox.
Yeah.
WhatsApp. When I was in South Africa, it was a necessity because everyone was on WhatsApp. And also they had a SIM card deal where you would, you'd put on like £5 or £1 even of airtime, and you'd get free WhatsApp.
Okay.
And then lastly, my normal email. But one of the things that you can do is you can actually say which mailboxes it should give you a badge for. So at the moment, mine's set to only show my corporate email. So it's only the corporate email, and also the corporate email, I don't set it to push email. So for instance, I now had to go and manually refresh it, and then I can see that there's 4 emails. So that way, I see what I want to see when I want to see it.
Okay.
I presume it's a bit of a personal preference, but
yeah. What about the Human thing? Can you kind of explain that one to me?
I can.
Sort of, it sends out sort of automatic emails to your contacts to make sure that your contact details for them are correct or something like that.
Yes, it does. Let me quickly see if I can get this on the screen. I should be able to. I run a small program called Reflection, which always used to work. Let me just see if I can get it working. Size. Device. Okay, doesn't seem to work today. Can you still hear me, Hans?
I can still hear you fine. I see that Jonathan has put mute on, but that's
yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to have a little private conversation here. We're trying to figure out logistics about keys and people leaving for work and stuff. So
no problem.
Carry on without me for a second.
All right.
I can say what I do when I'm out traveling.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will run through my email every day to see what's come in, and of course, if there's something that needs urgent attention, I'll do it. But what I find myself doing is to just mark or star the emails that will need attention later. So I do that, just continue doing that, and try to delete the rest of them. So that when I have time and I feel it's right, I sit down and I just look up all those emails that are marked for attention and go through them separately, so that you don't sort of stress yourself out working on stuff that just don't need that immediate attention, but you batch it up every day or every 2 or 3 days, and you just like I came in yesterday, so now I will need to go through my email list for the last few days and respond to some of those messages.
Yeah, I'm really glad you do that. I'm opening up my Twitter to go and show a screenshot that I took recently. Just a bit of frustration of someone that I've sent an email to about 5 or 6 or 7 times, and the task just wasn't done. Because a lot of people they don't do what you do or what we do. they just have emails coming in and in and in and in and in, which never stops, and there's no way that they know which one is important and which one to follow up. So you said something important there. You said you filter the email to really see what is important. For the ones that are important, you flag them, okay, and then you follow up. And I presume when you're done with following up, you unflag them.
Well, I guess I should, but the thing is that when you, it's a good thing to flag those emails also, because the ones that you do respond to are usually the ones that you might need to search for sometime in the future, and a lot of email services give you that ability to give extra attention to the things that you flag. So I find it's good to actually keep the flag on those emails, because they are the ones that you probably need.
Okay.
And I should also mention, since I've been myself doing an email startup for the last 15 years, Runbox, it's a great email service out of Norway, that I've started a new messaging email service that's called NumberCom, that we will be launching now at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona on March 2nd. So this is actually what I'm working on these days, numbercom.com. And it's a new messaging service that will focus on some of these issues, especially around SMS and your mobile number and email, and will solve this in a new way that I hope will be good for people and fascinating. So I've used a lot of what I've learned over the last 15 years running an email service provider with a handful of employees and several million euro turnover over those years, just selling email accounts into a new service. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited about that. We have 3 developers working on this. I'm heading over now on Saturday. I'm heading over to Lithuania, where we have the developers working on this, and we will be doing a sprint towards the Mobile World Congress.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, something you just mentioned there, Hans, that I think is quite interesting is so you have developers in Lithuania, and I seem to remember you talking about how you have people sometimes in the Philippines who are really good at sort of doing graphic design, maybe do logo work for you and that sort of thing. How do you manage that? Like how do you find people like that? Is it all through Odesk? And how do you manage communication? Like is that just through email, chat, whatever? Like what works there, and is it face to face, or is it like all purely through email, or?
Well, as I said, I feel the need to actually go over to Lithuania now and work with the developers. They're great developers, but it's just that when you're actually sitting around the same table, you can draw stuff up on the wall, and it just creates a whole different dynamic than doing it on Skype or especially when you get into the nitty-gritty details and you need to flesh it all out. So that's why I'm going over there to spend time with them. I was over there also in November, December for a week and kickstarted it all. So I think that's important. You find people, in the beginning I used to find people through Odesk and Elance and other services. Now I've actually seen that the people I find are, I have like a handful of people that I work with, and through them I ask for references of people they know. And because the thing is that you need to work through quite a lot of people before you find the really great ones that you can work really well with. And once you find that, you want to cultivate that relationship. And if they have a relationship with someone else that they trust, that's a better way to find people than to just start looking in the huge ocean of people on like Odesk to try to find people there, because you also then can use the trust that you've built up and sort of have that trust forwarded to that next person. And also, you know, it's a lot about, it's a lot about how you work with people. So if you have someone that you have a good relationship with, they can tell that other person how you are as an employer and how it works. So it just works so much smoother.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, that sort of, I don't know, is there a term for it where you have that sort of trust network that kind of sort of grows out, you know, and references of references and that sort of thing?
Referral network?
Something like that.
I guess I guess you do build up a trust on you know, the social networks, and Odesk is almost like a social network also now, because you do have a rating for like everyone that's worked for you. I have some, you know, I've run through some 13,000 hours on Odesk, and I have a lot of great reviews there. So I have people check me up, and they see that they have a, I know in Odesk they have like on the backside they have like their own chatter about the employers like us, that, you know, and they have like a rating system that, you know, they have the official rating system, but they also have their own jargon and a different one. And once, by the slip of a tongue or something, I saw some of the chatter about me as an employer, and it was I was a 5-star client apparently, and I was thinking maybe I'm too nice, you know, maybe I need to sort of
yeah.
So, but it has.
Hey guys,
it
I'm just
also
gonna
has
pop.
an
I'm
advantage.
just gonna
I
leave
like
it in 2 minutes, okay? I'll be back in 2 minutes, all right?
Okay, Jono.
Sure thing.
You were saying you want to, or you like to?
I like to try to build a lot of trust with the people that work for me, and to give people a lot of responsibility to work things out for themselves. And if you have several people where you trust them and you work tight with them, you can also have them talk to each other, so that I don't need to sort of go in and do all those nitty-gritty details. What I find that if you build a good team of several people, if you have them talk to each other, a lot of things will work out, and it doesn't have to go through you. And that's when I think it's really effective to work with offshore teams, when the teams are if you have just one person and that person has a question, there's no one else to turn to but you.
Yeah.
But if you have a team, they work it out between themselves, and also many times every customer is different. Like I do it differently than others, and they can also work that out between them. Hans will probably like it if we do it this way.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us all back. That brings us back to the whole theme about communication again. If you are able to have a team that communicate within themselves, and they know that there's some tasks to do, you don't have to be the person communicating all the tasks. So you're freeing yourself up, and you're actually freeing your staff up, because they don't have to sit around waiting for instructions from you. They know what to do. I've experienced this quite a lot. I've implemented help desk systems, okay, for like technical teams, and it's always funny. People always go from the point where they first had their private emails, and they had requests coming in to their private emails, and if someone went on holiday, then no one knew what was going on with a certain task because it was in his private email. Then they would usually move over to a shared email address, and in that shared email address you'd have multiple people reading the one email and responding from the one email. But again, the similar thing, because you don't know who responded, because it just says from that one email address. And then we usually move them over to a help desk system, a proper help desk system, where you have technicians, and you have all the emails coming into one inbox, but people can grab those jobs, or they can assign themselves to those emails, thereby it becoming their task to do. And if they then reply, it replies via the same normal email, but it informs the client that, you know, that Jonathan replied. So, you know, the technician called Jonathan is replying to this job, and this is the current status. And the real nice benefit with that when it comes to communication is, if Jonathan is on holiday, in the system you could just put him down as holiday. Any responses to his tickets or his technical requests goes to the backup technician, okay? Or if there's no backup technician, you know, to the supervisor or the manager. And similarly, if yeah, similarly with these systems, if someone is on holiday, if someone is busy elsewhere, you can very quickly just see what's the status. What's the status of communication? You know, this was a request. This happened. This happened. This happened. Okay, you know, and then someone else can follow up. So again, you're opening up. You're freeing your team from having to wait for communication, waiting for instructions. They can just get on, get the job done. And as a manager, obviously, then you have all the nice things about running reports and seeing who's done the most work or the least work, things like that.
I've built several support systems over the years myself, and I couldn't agree more. It grows out of just doing your own email stuff, and you just find it necessary to build a support system. So, and eventually end up with one of those professional systems. Some people try to set up their own stuff sometimes and run it with some free software or something, but I've found that it's worth paying for some of those online support services, even though I think some of them are a bit too expensive, but you know, then again, you get a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely depends, you know, what your business is, how many technicians you have, or sorry, you know, how many support staff you have, or it's 100% dependent on your business. But the one that I do really like, which is actually free, for I believe it's for 2 technicians or 2 support staff. It is called webhelpdesk.com, and what's also it's really easy to install, so you can install it on Linux or Mac even or PC, and it's not for big business, but if you're just a small company, you know, with let's say 2 staff, that's already better, because when one goes on holiday, you can continue with the task there. So yeah, but I quickly want to share my screen with you guys, because I said earlier when we were talking about emails, and one of the things is, like I said, people the emails just keep on coming in, and they don't filter it, they don't delete emails, they don't follow up on emails, okay? And mostly it's because they haven't categorized it. So I'm going to show you guys, don't get too scared of this, but this is a screenshot I took of my Outlook, and I just need to share my screen. And the entire screen will be fine.
You're a PC person? Are you a PC or a Mac person?
I am agnostic. Actually I'm a Linux.
Oh.
But I'm really actually I don't really care. I want to get the job done. And for that reason, I had to learn a couple of different OSs. But this is for Outlook, I use PC, okay? Just because the Mac version is not as good, okay? But this is an example of the way that I set up my email.
Okay, so what the heck is going on here?
Okay. So what you do is, with the email coming in, I have so I actually have a couple of steps. So the first step is you create a couple of what we call search folders. Okay? So things like Gmail already does this for you with their labels. Okay? And so if you look over there,
search folders is like, basically it's like a sort of folder which is based on a search query of email that's coming in. So incoming email, whenever it applies to any of those search queries, it gets put in those folders. Is that correct? Like tagged to those kind of folder things or something?
It's kind of like tagged, yes. So it doesn't get moved. Yeah. Okay, it is just so you can quickly click on So the one, if you look, okay, you can't really look because not all of our listeners can look, but you create, it's in Outlook. You'll see there's a area that says search folder. You can right click and you can say create a new search folder. And the search folder that you really want to create is for all messages that you have flagged for follow-up. Okay, so in Gmail this is called starring. In others, it is also, where you just put a flag on it. But this is messages that have come in, and you've determined, like we said, you're on holiday and you have 10 or 20 or 40 emails, and you flagged one of them as it's important, something you want to follow up with. Then the second step is you just actually drag that to your favorites. So it's easier to get to.
Yeah.
And then comes a bit about context. So I don't know about you guys, but it really, again, it depends on your work at the moment.
Yeah. But say Louis, like say for example, this all looks great and fine, but say I'm on a Mac, so how could I apply any of this to what I do?
Well, you could, you can do this on a Mac. You could in any if you're on Mac and you're using Mac Mail. Okay.
I use it. I really don't like it, but I don't know. I
stopped using Mac Mail because when Gmail created the all email, basically Gmail and Mac Mail don't work that well together. And with Chrome you can have Gmail offline, so I saw no real benefit anymore.
You can do that, yeah, of course.
Yeah. But so this, are you guys still with me? You get the
concept? Sure. Okay. And I must just to pitch in that I don't use such sophisticated system at all. I have to say I use the search ability and flagging, and that's what I do. I do have some folders, but that is mostly to just get some of the crap away, like eBay. You know, they just send you too many mails, so you just want to get rid of the worst of it. Well, but I just use the search function.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just chip in? So something that I would like to share, if you don't mind, is basically something called Unroll. Unroll.me. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
So.
This is specifically talking about the newsletter. The death of the newsletter, not the death, because newsletters work, but most people, they subscribe to too many newsletters.
Yeah. So it's basically a service that just helps kind of take all your newsletters and roll them into one email. So rather than getting like one on Monday and one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday, blah blah blah, you know, from Ramit Sethi, you know, or you know, personal finance or blah blah blah, you just put them all in one box, and then you can basically unsubscribe to those newsletters as well through the service as well. So everything's just in one place, and it just saves you having to, like, you know, unsubscribe from each one individually, like on individual emails and blah blah blah. You just have it all in one email. Quite neat.
Exactly. So this is can you guys see my screen?
Hold on a sec.
Yep.
Okay, so this is just showing the my personal account, and this is a classic example. So what's nice is it shows you the emails, but also gives you one-click unsubscribe. So if I'm not interested to hear from Bill anymore, from Paul, I can just unsubscribe directly from here. But and that is a really good, you know, when people want to get to inbox zen, you know, or where they either don't care about the email like you do, Jonathan, or where you have a bit more of organized, you know, it really doesn't matter. It's what is for you, you know, if it works for you, as long as the job gets done. So this is great. You can add it to roll-up. So you, instead of, if the person sends, you know, 5 emails a week, you can rather say, well, only send me a roll-up of those, you know, once a week. So you get the 5 of them in one email. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to show here still with the email is this concept about context. So I could have really started the other way around, okay, saying that take the emails that come in, and if your job, so again, this depends on your job. My job, I need to change, you know, my employed job. I need to change context quite a lot. I need to change from working with servers to working with software licensing to working with computer labs to working with. So what I've created is these contexts. So when an email comes in, and let's say it's something to do with a computer, you know, one of the 20 computer labs, and it has a problem, I'll flag the email and drag the email out of my inbox into that context. Okay, so if it's a server problem, I'll flag the email and drag it into, or move it into the servers. And what that means is when I get to work, or when I get to the office, Hans, previously you spoke about batching.
Yep.
Okay, where you don't just jump around between one thing and the next. You assign, well, at this time I'm going to be doing these type of jobs. So what you're then able to do is go, to the servers area, and you can instantly see which, inside that context of work you're going to be doing, which ones are still flagged, which ones still need doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the problems that I see around all this is that we all sort of build a little bit ad hoc a system that we're all drinking from a fire hose, right? It's just so much coming in, and you just find a solution here and there, and a lot of the systems now are very flexible. I mean, I use Google a lot, the Google Docs system and all that, and you can do so many ways, and you can set up your system in so many ways that everyone does it a bit differently.
Oh yeah.
For better and for worse, and I actually think this is a problem somehow.
Yeah.
You don't want to force people into a system, but I wish someone would write a book or set up a standard, and this is how we organize things, and this is how we do it, everybody, and to have a little bit more structure on it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that Google is doing, or Gmail is doing quite a good job. I don't know if you've seen the Inbox app that they launched recently.
Indeed.
Okay. And
yeah, they're doing absolutely the best job, and they have the most resources. They're putting most effort into it, so bless them for that.
I have to say, to be honest, Dropbox brought out an app called Mailbox quite a while ago.
Oh yeah, that's one of the ones I've got. Yeah.
And strangely, Google's Inbox is very much. They have a lot of features that came from the Mailbox app, like reminders, so if it's email that came in now, but you really don't need to deal with it now, you rather want to postpone it or procrastinate on it until a better time. But what I do really like about Gmail is it does that first thing for you to a degree, in the sense of it determines the email's context. So when you just quickly go into your Gmail inbox on the web, the primary one is the important emails. Okay. Also, if you flag any email inside any one of the other categories, it actually shows up in your primary because you've identified that it's important. And I know initially when Google brought out just the one tab, which was for promotions, a lot of internet marketers, they were a little bit upset. They were scared that they're not going to have good open-up rates of the emails. But what I actually found is sorry, Jonathan, is that your phone? Someone's phone is just giving some feedback. No?
No, maybe a helicopter is circling overhead.
Yeah, that happens in London too often. But what I found is when your email is in those contexts, for instance, if all your newsletters is inside a folder called newsletter, then you're in the context of I'm interested versus the context of I'm being interrupted. So I found when I'm actually opening up my newsletter or my updates folder, so firstly, social emails I just disable. I don't get any LinkedIn emails, I don't get any Facebook emails, I don't get any Twitter emails, because if I want to see what's happening on Twitter, I go to Twitter. If I want to see what's happening on Facebook, I go to Facebook. I don't need my email inbox interrupted with that. So yeah, just have you guys ever experienced that when you have a certain context that you're more
well, I tend to use the mail applications that just throw everything into one place. So I know in Gmail you have your tabs,
Primary.
your social and your blah 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 and your promotional or whatever. But I generally, the way I consume the email is just in one big massive basket with 20 different email addresses with stuff coming in, and I just trim the stuff off the top.
That's the way I do it too. Right. And you're just drinking from the fire hose, and I think a lot of us is at the point now where we sort of we're only sort of trying to keep control at the margin. I mean, who doesn't have the idea that I need to go over my email one day that I have a lot of time and sort of sort everything out? It's never going to happen.
Yeah, and this whole thing about inbox zero, I'm like, what's the point?
It's not going to happen.
It's so much work for what? For peace of mind?
I have to tell you one thing, Jono. If you use the Google Inbox app on the phone, you can literally do it with 3 clicks.
Yeah, I know. I could do that with Mailbox as well, like that Dropbox one you mentioned that I've got installed. I don't feel like do that. I want it to all be there. I don't want it to disappear.
Yeah.
I want to just be able to kind of flick through when I've got nothing better to do.
Well, when you're saying about you want it all be there, one of the concepts that Google introduces is when if you don't delete the email, you just archive it, right? So it's still there. It's not in your face.
Yeah, but to be honest, like. What it's working for me now. I don't really see any reason to change. Guys, if you don't mind, do you mind if I just like share? I asked like my friends what they use for communication at work, and a lot of people shared answers with me. Do you mind if I share that with you?
Yeah, that was a good post, Jonathan. Share it.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, to be honest. Like just sort of the divergence in answers, just kind of all over the place. So yeah, just basically, I just posted on my wall. I said, sorry, where is it? Yeah, sort of out of curiosity, what does everyone use it to communicate at work? So you got Chris Jones saying email, Skype, IM, and video call. Trello comments. Someone saying they don't get the Slack hype. So Slack is kind of an instant communication platform that is really, really popular. But some people just don't get it.
It's more for corporations and stuff, isn't it?
I would say it's like the startup version of Yammer. So Yammer is more sort of enterprise level, and Slack is like the new upstart. But so many people are using it. But yeah, if I just run them through, so email, Facebook. Someone said Link. People are still using Link.
Corporates do. So this might have been the question I wanted to ask you. So
yeah.
With these, are most of these people freelancers, or did you?
So Chris,
what type of?
Chris is Chris is a freelancer. Andre is a digital nomad. He was at the Gran Canaria Business Conference. Was he there this year?
Indeed.
He was.
Last year, yep.
Yeah, Bernie works in corporate. No one mentioned Yammer, which I was kind of surprised about. Someone said POTS. I was like, what the heck is POTS? That's someone I used to work in sort of corporate telecoms. He says it's Unix, wool. I have no idea. Another guy says Post-it notes. One of my favorite ones here was Rob, who works. I think he works for the BBC. He said, in order of frequency, email, phone, link, and screaming.
Screaming if all else fails.
Yeah. What else have we got here? Just all sorts, really. But a lot of people go for Slack. So I also, in addition to on my wall, I asked in the on the London startup sort of Facebook group, which is about 13,000 people, and so I listed a bunch, and the top, so I'd say sort of the top one was Slack, which came out with 22 votes, and then email with 15, and then Skype with 12. I'm actually surprised that people are using Skype so much. I find like the biggest problem that I find with Skype and Google Hangout, GChat, whatever, is notifications, and message syncing is really, really bad. So people send you stuff and you will only get it like a minute later or whatever. Whereas Slack, I don't know why, but Slack is just so much better in that respect.
Yeah. So the reason I asked who what's the background of your audience there really is if you go to most people who work in corporate companies, they don't really have that much of a choice of what they use. They have which the system that is provided to them, and then usually if they use something else, they kind of doing shadow IT. So IT would come down and you're not allowed to use Dropbox, you're not allowed to use this, you're not allowed to use that, you're not allowed to use that. So it would actually be interesting at one point to do a, where we do a bit of a survey where we first ask our listeners, are they freelancers or are they working for corporate? Kind of that's like the first type of question, and then kind of get the rest of the answers. Almost do two different surveys. Because, for instance, Slack, you the first one that introduced me to Slack, and it does look kind of awesome for doing group-based, but it's more of a chat rather than. Are you able to? So, for instance,
it integrates with everything. To be honest, like you can sort of kind of like integrate docs. You can integrate Trello boards, Trello updates. You can integrate Twitter feeds. You can integrate anything. Like there's so much. I mean, you can integrate this Hangout. Actually, I'm not sure how that integration works, but it just it's growing. It's ballooning at an incredible rate. And I've got this article up. I mean, people on the video can see it, but maybe not on audio. But someone on the group shared this article where the Slack founder actually says he has no idea why the app's exploding, like why it's so popular. So yeah, he was just like he said it was at a conference and he was saying he said I'll get into trouble with my PR team for saying this, but he has no freaking idea why it's blowing up so much. But yeah, I just.
What's interesting is the fact if it can integrate all of those. I need to play with it more. I haven't played with it, to be honest.
And it's only a year old and it's valued at over $1 billion.
And I see it was Google Ventures invested in them.
Yeah.
It might be Google.
It reminds me of that Google app that they killed. What was that? Where you just had this long line of
Wave.
communication. Wave, yeah. It reminds me a bit of Wave. So a lot of the idea of a better communication system where you tie in threads from other systems, a lot of that actually was set up in Wave. And Wave had, it had potential, and I think they shouldn't have killed it. They should have let a team run with it, because that might have been what Slack is now, but they just couldn't. Google is a strange place where, they can't just.
I think if you're a startup, one of the best places to look for ideas, like if you're thinking of building a startup, just look at the stuff that Google has ditched. You've got too impatient, or some stupid manager has ditched the project, and just do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Just go Google Labs.
Right. And I still miss Google Reader, every day.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first thing I was thinking of. Yeah.
And there's some people that tried, there's the old reader. They tried to be like the old. But why don't they? Why do the old reader? Why do they do it differently? Why don't they do it exactly as the old Google reader? No, they had to sort of add their own stuff, and it's not the same. Yeah. And but the good thing about Google killing Reader is that it reminds me every day that don't trust them too much. Try to never. So that's the stupidest thing they ever did. It was one server. It needed almost zero attention, and they killed it.
The only thing I think what might have, it couldn't have even been that much data. But I was just thinking the fact that I had maybe 3,000 RSS feeds in my Google Read, all by category, and what I liked is it kept it all. It kept everything. So that. And
I actually loved curling up in my sofa with my iPad and Google Reader. It was one of the things I really, really enjoyed. Yeah. And if nothing.
I know nothing has come close to it yet. Feedly helps, but it's not. The only reason they might have been, one of the reasons they might have done it is because of income, because they did not have the ads.
And they wanted to push it into that crappy Google Plus thing. That's the real reason. They're not getting traction on Google Plus, and that's why they sort of want to kill the other products just to push people. And I actually refuse to use Google Plus just because I know they killed Reader for me to do it. So that's why I don't want to use Google Plus, because there's screwing with people and that's just, it's bad karma. And it, you know, Google says don't be evil, and killing reader was evil.
Yeah.
They did it for
I
the
agree.
wrong reasons, so it's evil, and it's, you know, it broke their good karma, and it will be their downfall eventually. You know, they thought it was just this little thing, and I hope this message reaches them. It'll be your downfall, Larry. You know, it's really bad.
Bring reader back. Oh well.
Yeah, bring reader back. You know, really, seriously. I'm sure it's still there. I would even bet they're still running the code and everything. So, you know, because.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
they
so
used it.
really, really bad karma.
Yeah.
Oh well. Oh well.
Hey
Well,
guys, I
yeah.
think our original target was a half an hour episode, and I think we're now an hour and a quarter in. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we've covered quite a bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
It wasn't as I'd a couple of other things that I wanted to.
Yeah, but I think
present,
maybe
but-
Louis, we should break this out into a second episode. Maybe the topic that we chose is a little bit too large. We need to break it down a little bit further.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We can actually have a topic just on email. And we can have a complete one just on video conferencing, as we're doing now, or whatever we want to call it.
Just the title, email, sounds a bit boring though. Like communication sounds really cool and sexy.
I'd love to
email
do that.
like,
you know, if you were to do that email thing, I'd love to have that happen as soon as possible, because we're working really intensely on NumberCom now, and we're launching in March in Barcelona. So, you know, we can give some input, but we also really like to hear that episode and see what people come up with, built on your thread there, Jonathan. It has gotten a lot of traction in its own right. And I wanted to share that thread, Jonathan, but the thing is that if you share the thread on Facebook, the comments does not follow through, right? So that's the problem, because your question is just a question. The content is really in the comments.
Yeah.
Was your question a public question? Did you post it publicly or privately?
I don't
Make
know.
sure it gets public, and I would like to embed it on the NumberCom site even, just to it's such a great question. It really really needs more attention.
Else, if all else fails, you could always take a nice browser screenshot. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if you used.
When I see, like, you know, a friend of mine asks like something that's really, you know, really like where you get really insightful answers. Like there was one where this guy was he was creating another version of Workaway, and he was asking people, you know, if you could do any job, you know, if you could see yourself anywhere, you know, give me a place and a profession of what you'd be doing. And I was like, I would be an accordion player in Colombia, and someone else was like, I'd be a fisherman in the west coast of Mexico, and like all this stuff, like all over the place. It's such a great question. So I just took that question. I said, I'm just helping my mate out. Like he'd like to ask this question. And I got like another, you know, 30 answers as well, and passed those on to him.
Well, yeah, I think that's cool. Jonathan, I've got that's kind of my wrapping up voice. I've got to go.
Obviously, you've got jobs to get to.
And Hans, really, it's nice meeting, and I really like the discussion. Definitely, we can definitely have one where we just focus on email, because there's things we haven't even covered, which is, for instance, calendaring. You know, and why is email and calendaring so?
Do you mean scheduling?
Well, yeah, scheduling. Scheduling.
And address book.
An address book and all these things, you know, do they really need to be in one place even? Should I send you an email to ask you, are you available on Thursday? Should I really do that? Is email the best way for me finding out whether you're available on Thursday? I get that a lot, and people will say, are you available? And then you'd reply, and then they would reply, and then someone else would reply.
There are scheduling solutions for that as well. I use one called meetme.so. That works for me.
So I think we can cover. That's great. That's what you've been pestering me to get this going. So yeah, we can definitely, you know, communication, as we've now kind of defined it, is very broad. It can be one-to-one. It can be personal. It can be business. It can include things like tasks, you know, and should tasks really be in email? it's email, it's calendaring, it is feedback. I see some of the things over there and you get things like Facebook, so it's also sharing. It is not only you communicating, but getting that communication shared again.
I have an idea for a guest for that particular kind of show, because there was this guy, I wanted to get him on today actually, who has built this platform called To-Do, which is essentially quite similar to Slack, but what they've tried to build in is exactly what you're talking about. He's tried to build in scheduling and tasking and assigning to different people. So he would have been really interesting to get on. I don't think their platform is all the way there. But it's an interesting attempt to solve that problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
So wrap up time, I guess. Any final thoughts or words? This is going to go out on YouTube, so we'll be sharing it, with you, Hans, obviously.
Well, everybody check out the Gran Canaria Business Week in January 2016. We do that every year, and that's where we hang out and gather for a week or 10 days, and we just share so many ideas, and we talk basically like we've been talking now. That's how the talk goes all week about stuff, and I have to put in that pitch at the end. Thanks.
Yeah. Excellent. It's been great having you on and hearing your perspective as well, which is it's great hearing
Really appreciate the opportunity and the talk. It was a great talk.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's great having you on. From my side, really, just thanks, Jonathan, for actually starting it up and for
kicking your ass.
We've had this idea for a while, and we've got lots of content, lots of things in Evernote and all over the place. Even previous magazines I've published, which will just be kind of converted into let's read it out and get some feedback from it.
Yeah.
But for now, also we have a website called thursdaytechtip.com, which is really just starting up, so we'll still make it look nice. And also the Twitter handle is thursdaytechtip, also brand new, so you can be one of the first followers. Then me, I'm Louis in London on Twitter, so if you wanted to ask a question, if I'm not answering on Thursday, hey, and what is the cat's name?
The cat is Vitus.
Oh, hello, Vitus.
Okay. And it's been proven that looking at cute animals makes you happier and more productive. So that was your productivity tip of the day. Thanks a lot, Hans. And Jono?
Yeah, just for me, please stay tuned. This is the Thursday Tech Tip, although we're actually broadcasting this on a Tuesday, but I think in future episodes we'll try and keep it to Thursdays. We're just doing this one on the Tuesday, obviously, as it's the first episode. We just want to make sure that there are no technical hitches and we can publish on Thursdays. So it's looking to me like it'll probably be a weekly thing. I'm getting a weekly feel here, Louis.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, cool. So that's all from us. Thanks, Hans, Louis.
Vitus.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Right.
See you around.
Yes.